It is April 26, 2025. I've just been working with my chickies in their yard, piling up compost, and wanted to finally document it because I made this bed like 5 years ago when I first got excited about having a sort of integrated chicken compost system a la EdibleAcres. I watched all those videos thousands of times, and I came up with the idea to make a little log bed. And there was a pine tree over there, now it's over here, and it fell down on the bed, but it's all sort of rotten anyway, but still does the job. And it's not as sophisticated where I have things going in any particular direction. Basically, you got the fence over here, chuck the leaves over, and let them sit, and then at some point in the season I start piling them up over here and mixing it in with chicken bedding. And we don't import food scraps or anything, so it's a very carbon-rich compost. Lots of different sources though. Pine cones and pine needles and oak and maple leaves. We're in a tiny little forest with mostly pine trees, and directly above me this lovely oak. And yeah, I just wanted to explain a bit how it works. This here's little Sabrina. My chickens nowadays, they free range. They used to be living entirely in this static run, but eventually we had a hatch where the chicks were so small they could fit through the holes in the fence, and I decided to start free ranging them. And now we do a sort of hybrid thing where sometimes they're in the yard, sometimes they free range. And Sabrina was born into this system and lived here for 2 years doing nothing but the compost, so she's my most enthusiastic helper. She's very sweet. Yeah, basically we just pile it up in this bed, mix soaked grain in. I soak bird seed, and you can look at the ingredients on bird seed, see if there's good grains for chickens. Some grain, it looks like it's a good deal, but it's mostly millet and too much sunflower. But when the goal is sprouting seeds, I find the best things to sprout for chickens are wheat and sunflower. Sorry, it's my rooster. And what else do you like? Some seeds that are amiss. Flax, once it sprouts, they don't want it. Millet, they kind of like it sprouted, but they get bored of it really quickly. Sorghum, couldn't say. You'll eat it when it's just sprouted, but if it gets all ropey, you're not a big fan. But basically, I try and sprout mostly wheat and sunflower in the compost. And sometimes if you want a lot of mustard, you can throw mustard seeds in there. They go a long way. I've thrown dill seeds before, because, again, a little bit goes a long way. And eventually or actually before I even had the outer yard, when we just had 3 chickens and they lived in this inner yard, I put these rings here to grow some lettuces for them. And then over time, I decided I might like to plant some plants in them. Initially I thought it would be a great idea to plant native smooth roses. So I got 3 smooth roses, or 5 I think it was, and a lot of them are dead. And even the most successful one, which is in here, is really not having an easy life. So it's lucky that this black cap showed up from seed. And because it's a chicken yard full of amazing soil, they grow very vigorously. And even though the rabbits do their best to sabotage them, they make a nice shade for the chickens. So that's awesome. Black caps I definitely recommend, even though it seems like it's a horrible idea because they're spiky. If you train them upwards, it can be a good time. And chickens are smart, they know not to step on them for the most part. And where this pine tree came down, at some point I saw fit to add black currants. I just took those from a wild patch that already existed here, and I also plonked a Apios americana tuber in there. and it's always sort of struggled because it couldn't climb the tree because it's a pine tree. It doesn't really have a whole lot of stuff for it to grip onto. So I took this old Christmas tree, stuffed it in the ring upside down, and I'm hoping it'll climb up on the fence and give them a bit of shade in the evening. And this is just a red raspberry that makes not very nice berries, but altogether it makes for a nice little district where they can come and sit under the bushes and enjoy their shade. It was very cute raising chicks in the yard, because they would go into all the little nooks and crannies and they could get away from the bully chickens by hanging out under the bushes and stuff. And then this year, because I've had things like elderberry growing on the property for a while, I stuck some cuttings in the ground, such as here, and I'm just generally going a bit wild, adding tons of currant cuttings. And as we make our way over here, this is a plum I grew from a seed on the hill. It's still alive, but the rabbits had some fun with it. And over here, this is a Scotia elder that is very much doing well, despite the fact that it's shaded by sunchokes every year. And then behind me is this mulberry that is not great. It dies on the top a lot, and I kind of regret planting it here because I pushed a bunch of Canada plum pits in here and one of them germinated, but it was too late. The mulberry was already overtaken it, so oh well. But what I found to be the best way of going is just accepting volunteers that actually want to grow here. So in this ring I put another one of those smooth roses. It has never put on any growth. Meanwhile, volunteer blackcap is having a great time, and there's a little pine tree down there that I'll probably leave because I think it would be cute to have a little bonsai pine tree in the yard. More recently, we had a big ice storm that brought down this old weeping fruitless mulberry, which is kind of an abomination, really. But it's made for a nice little perch for them. They can come and jump on top of here, and because it's hard for them to get underneath there, I've been throwing grain and then throwing some of the compost on top so that it'll sprout and they can have some sprouts. And always water, lots of water is. This is their little mobile one that has legs on it, and I can carry it around if they're spending an inordinate amount of time outside of the yard, which I think we have one chicken in the yard right now, so that's great. But sometimes they're more content to stay in here, especially once the weather gets hot. And then here, I think that's a red elder coming up there. Definitely is here. And they love red elderberries. I found that out this last year. And I've gone crazy digging up sunchokes and planting them everywhere because I just want the yard to be super green this year. And here where I put this log, I stuck a bunch of grain in the ground and planted blackcaps all along here. And then I put currants at the end, and I planted Monarda fistulosa in a couple of these sections, and blackcaps, and just going to plant them a little herb garden there as I have the plants available. And in the middle I'll probably stick cucumbers. But I find it's hard to find vining crops that are good food for them. You can't grow them beans. They don't want to eat beans. And they like peas, but they don't eat the leaves. But with cucumbers, they can eat the leaves, and they can eat the cucumbers. So that seems like a good shout to me. And then we have a few more rings over here. This is all pawpaw that I stuck in. You can see I put this motherwort stem over the top of it to try and protect it from rabbits, and somehow that actually worked. I think I also popped a little elderberry cutting in there, some currants coming up here, and I think I put a sunchoke in there. And you can see pawpaws, even with a ring around them, are not immune to being eaten. Here I pushed an apple seed in the ground and had a lovely little apple tree, but we had a bad winter, so that got completely girdled, and the pawpaw was nipped at the top like that. But luckily it still has a little bit of action going on at the side, so hopefully it bounces back and we don't have to think of something else to do there. And then I have this funny little abomination of a seedling tree, apple tree, that's gonna bud out soon. There's this wild apple tree that I really like, and I saved some seed from it and grew a couple of trees out. This is one of them, and it has this weird coiled pattern to it. And eventually I thought it would be fun to try and train that to grow sideways so they could sort of perch on it. And it doesn't really matter what kind of apples it makes, because chickens eat any apple. And this area is a bit of a nothing. I'm trying to get grapes to grow on the fence here every year, but it's not a very fertile area, being under so many different pine trees. Not a lot of light and not a lot of moisture to be spared, because it will get sucked up by the trees, I think. But I'm still trying. Stuck a currant in here, and sunchokes will come up everywhere, I'm sure, because they're so easy to propagate, and they make such a nice big leafy plant that it's too tempting to me. And this corridor was absolutely filled with red raspberries by the end of last season, but the rabbits eat them to the ground, which is fine. Put currants in because they don't like currants. And that's about it, really. Unless they're in a run. Nothing too unusual going on in there. But just, you know, water, food, oyster shell, Christmas trees to perch on. And too many roosters. But we're having a good time. Try to keep the ground nice and mulched so that seedlings have a chance to get established before the chickens obliterate them. Motherwort is very excited about being a part of the gang here. And yeah, I'm sure there's all sorts of things I've planted that I can't remember that will come up in due course. But even over here, again, blackcaps coming up from seed. Can't be beat, really. It's one of their faves. In the past, I've had pretty good success growing squash in the yard as well. So that's another option. You just have to make sure you grow a variety that isn't gonna get bored or mildewed. Grow butternuts, grow honey nuts, and they love those too. So lots of fun ways of growing food for them. Of course, the compost probably provides more than anything else, but and they free range, so it's not a big deal. It's not like they need to get their food from the compost, but they still choose to spend a lot of time in here picking through and eating sprouts and hanging out with their friends. The little pit here I was most proud of the way that it serves as like a square perch, basically, and of an evening they'll often all perch around the edges, and there's room for everybody and everybody's together, and it's just very nice, isn't it, Sabrina? But we spend less time in here now, and I think the yard's improved for it. It used to be the case I was so desperate to create amusement for them that I wouldn't give the soil enough time to rest and develop, and the plants would do alright, but they do better now that I'm letting things rest and just enjoying the whole process of watching things develop. It's really nice. And that's little Leela. Leela is Sabrina's biological niece, though they were raised by the same hen, at least in part. And we're all a big, happy family. That's about it.